Marcus Chen wiped the sweat from his forehead as he checked the cargo hold one more time. His ship, the Resilience, was not much to look at. The hull had patches from meteor strikes and the paint was fading in most places, but she was reliable, and that was all Marcus needed for his cargo runs between the outer colonies. He was heading back to his pilot seat when the communication system started beeping. Marcus frowned. He was in the middle of nowhere, in a sector where most ships avoided going. Who would be sending signals out here? The message was garbled and full of static, but Marcus could make out enough words to understand. Someone was in trouble. Their ship was damaged and under attack. They needed help immediately. Marcus sat in his pilot chair and stared at the controls. The smart thing would be to ignore the message and keep flying. Pirates were common in this area and it could be a trap. But the voice in the message sounded desperate and scared. Damn it, Marcus muttered to himself. He could never ignore someone who needed help. He changed course and flew toward the source of the signal. What he found made him whistle in surprise. A beautiful ship floated in space, but it was clearly in bad shape. The ship looked like it was made of crystal and metal, with flowing lines that reminded Marcus of art rather than engineering. He had never seen anything like it. Around the crystal ship, 5 smaller vessels circled like sharks. Marcus recognized them immediately. Shadowclaw pirates. They were known for being ruthless and cruel. Their ships were dark and covered in spikes, looking more like weapons than vehicles. Marcus watched as the pirates fired energy weapons at the crystal ship. The beautiful vessel's shields were failing, and parts of its hull were already damaged. It would not last much longer. The smart thing would be to run. Marcus was just one ship against 5 pirate vessels. His cargo hauler was not built for fighting. But as he watched, he saw escape pods being destroyed as they tried to leave the crystal ship. The pirates were not just robbing, they were killing everyone. Marcus felt anger rise in his chest. He had seen enough bullies in his life and he hated them all. "Hey, ugly ships," Marcus said into his communication system, broadcasting to the pirates. "Pick on someone your own size." The pirate ships turned toward him surprised. Marcus did not wait for them to organize. He flew straight at the nearest pirate vessel, firing his simple but effective weapons. The Resilience was not fancy, but humans built things to last and to hit hard. The first pirate ship exploded in a ball of fire. The others spread out trying to surround Marcus. But Marcus had learned to fly in asteroid fields and dangerous trade routes. He knew how to make a ship dance. He dove under the second pirate ship and fired up into its belly. The ship's shields could not handle the close-range attack. It spun out of control and crashed into the third pirate vessel. The remaining 2 pirate ships were more careful now. They kept their distance and tried to hit Marcus with long-range weapons. But Marcus was already moving toward the crystal ship. "Can you still fight?" Marcus asked over the communication system. A voice answered, speaking in accented but clear English. "Our weapons are damaged, but our shields still work." "Who are you, brave stranger?" "Just someone who does not like bullies," Marcus replied. "Can you give me cover?" "We will try." The crystal ship's shields flared to life, protecting Marcus as he turned to face the last 2 pirates. The enemy ships fired everything they had, but the strange shields held strong. Marcus used the cover to get close to the 4th pirate ship. At close range, his weapons tore through the enemy's armor like paper. The ship broke apart in seconds. The last pirate ship turned and ran. Marcus thought about chasing it, but the crystal ship needed help more than he needed revenge. "Are you hurt?" Marcus asked as he flew closer to the damaged vessel. "We have wounded, but we will survive thanks to you," the voice replied. "May we know the name of our rescuer?" "Marcus Chen, captain of the cargo ship Resilience. Do you need help with repairs?" "Our ship can heal itself given time, but we would be grateful for an escort to safety." "I am Princess Zara Lynn of the Velthari Empire." Marcus blinked in surprise. A princess? He had never met royalty before. "Well, Your Highness, I would be happy to make sure you get home safely." As the crystal ship, which Marcus learned was called a bioship because it was partly alive, slowly repaired itself, Princess Zara Lynn told him about her people. The Velthari were an ancient race that valued art, wisdom, and beauty. They had been traveling to a peace conference when the pirates attacked. "Why did you help us?" the princess asked. "You did not know who we were. You risked your life for strangers." Marcus thought about the question. "Because it was the right thing to do. Where I come from, you help people who need help. It does not matter who they are." There was a long silence on the communication channel. Finally, the princess spoke again, and her voice sounded different, softer and more curious. "Your people must be very brave," she said. "Not brave," Marcus replied. "Just stubborn. We do not like to give up, and we really do not like bullies." As they flew together toward Velthari space, Marcus found himself enjoying the conversation with the princess. She asked many questions about humans and Earth. She seemed amazed that humans would fight to protect strangers without expecting payment or reward. "In our culture," she explained, "debts must be repaid. You have saved not just my life but the lives of my entire crew. This creates a bond that cannot be broken." Marcus laughed. "You do not owe me anything, princess. I just did what anyone would do." "Anyone would not have done what you did," she said quietly. "Most species would have calculated the odds and decided it was too dangerous. Humans are different." 2 days later, they reached the Velthari homeworld. Marcus stared in wonder at the planet below. Cities made of crystal and light covered the surface, more beautiful than anything he had ever seen. Ships that looked like living creatures flew between floating platforms. "Welcome to Lumenspire," Princess Zaralyn said. "My father, the Emperor, wishes to meet you and thank you properly." Marcus felt nervous. He was just a cargo hauler who happened to be in the right place at the right time. He was not dressed for meeting emperors, but as his ship was guided to a landing platform, Marcus could not help but smile. This had certainly been more interesting than his usual cargo runs. He had no idea that his simple act of helping someone in trouble was about to change his life forever. The princess's voice came over the communication system one more time as they landed. "Captain Chen, I want you to know that what you did was not simple or small. You have shown us something about humans that we did not know before. My people will not forget this." Marcus powered down his ship and prepared to meet an emperor. He still thought this was all much more fuss than necessary for doing the right thing. But he was curious to see what would happen next. Marcus had never felt so out of place in his life. The Velthari palace was made entirely of living crystal that glowed with soft, changing colors. The walls seemed to breathe and the floors felt warm under his feet. Everything was beautiful and alien and completely different from the metal corridors he was used to. Princess Zaralyn walked beside him as they moved through the palace. She was tall and graceful, with skin that had a faint crystal-like shine and eyes that changed color like her father's palace walls. Her people moved around them with fluid grace, bowing deeply to the princess and staring at Marcus with curious eyes. "Your father really did not need to make such a big deal about this," Marcus said, tugging at the formal clothes they had given him. The Velthari clothing was comfortable but felt strange after years of wearing simple cargo hauler uniforms. "You saved the life of an imperial princess," Zaralyn replied. "In our culture, this is the greatest deed possible. My father takes such things very seriously." They entered a vast throne room where Emperor Thelvar waited. He was even taller than his daughter, with the same crystal-like skin but older and more dignified. His presence filled the room, and Marcus understood immediately why this being ruled an empire that spanned dozens of star systems. "Captain Marcus Chen," the Emperor said, his voice deep and musical. "Approach." Marcus walked forward, not sure if he should bow or salute or what. He settled for a respectful nod. "Your Majesty," the Emperor studied Marcus for a long moment. "You are smaller than I expected for someone who defeated 5 Shadowclaw vessels alone." "I got lucky," Marcus said. "And your daughter's people helped with the shields." "Luck," the Emperor repeated as if the word was foreign to him. "Tell me, Captain Chen, do you understand what you have done?" Marcus shrugged. "I helped some people who were in trouble. Anyone would have done the same thing." The Emperor and Princess Zaralyn exchanged glances. Marcus noticed that several other Velthari nobles had gathered around the throne, all watching him with intense interest. "No," the Emperor said slowly. "Anyone would not have done what you did. Anyone would have calculated the odds, considered their own safety, and most likely fled. But you charged into battle against impossible odds to save strangers. This is not normal behavior." "It is for humans," Marcus said, starting to feel defensive. "Yes," the Emperor said, and there was something like wonder in his voice. "I am beginning to understand that. Captain Chen, by the ancient laws of my people, you have created a life debt. Princess Zaralyn owes you her existence. This debt can only be repaid in one way." Marcus waited, expecting to hear about some ceremony or payment or title. "You must marry my daughter." The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. He stared at the Emperor, sure he had misunderstood. I'm sorry, what? The law is clear, the Emperor continued. One who saves a royal life in mortal combat becomes bonded to the imperial family. You and Princess Zara Lynn must be wed to complete the debt and unite our peoples. Marcus looked around the room. Every face was serious. No one was smiling or laughing. They actually meant this. That's insane, Marcus said, his voice rising. You can't just decide people have to get married. What about choice? What about what she wants? Princess Zara Lynn stepped forward. Captain Chen, this is a great honor. To be bonded to the imperial family means you would become part of the most ancient and noble bloodline in the galaxy. But do you want to marry me? Marcus asked her directly. A stranger you met 3 days ago? The princess looked confused by the question. Want? This is about duty and honor and cosmic balance. Personal desire is not relevant. Marcus felt his head starting to hurt. Personal desire is the only thing that's relevant when it comes to marriage. You can't just force people to marry because some old law says so. The Emperor frowned. Force? Captain Chen, this is the highest honor we can bestow. Royal blood has never been mixed with that of a younger species. The children of this union would be extraordinary. Children? Marcus's voice cracked. We're talking about children now? Of course, the Emperor said. The purpose of any royal marriage is to strengthen the bloodline and create powerful heirs. Your species' talent for survival and adaptation, combined with our wisdom and longevity, would produce offspring capable of great things. Marcus felt like he was in a nightmare. This is crazy. People should marry because they love each other, not because some law says they have to. The Velthari nobles began murmuring among themselves. Marcus caught words like primitive and emotional and unstable. Princess Zara Lynn moved closer to Marcus. Captain Chen, I do not understand this concept of love in marriage. Among my people, marriages are arranged for the good of families and empires. Love, if it comes, develops over time through shared duty and respect. That's not how humans work, Marcus said, running his hands through his hair. We choose our own partners. We date and get to know each other and decide if we want to spend our lives together. You can't just announce that two people are getting married. The Emperor's expression grew stern. Captain Chen, you seem to misunderstand. This is not a request. The debt exists. The law is clear. The marriage will take place, and if I refuse... Silence fell over the throne room. The Emperor's eyes grew cold. Refusal is not possible, he said finally. To refuse would be to reject the highest honor of our people. It would be seen as an insult so great that it could mean war between our species. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. War? The other powers in the galaxy are already nervous about human expansion, Princess Zara Lynn said quietly. If we were to declare that humans had insulted our honor by rejecting a royal marriage, it would give them excuse to act against your colonies. Marcus looked around the room again. These people were serious. They actually expected him to marry someone he barely knew because he had done the right thing and helped people in trouble. This is insane, he said again, but more quietly this time. This is the way things have always been done, the Emperor replied. For thousands of years, our laws have maintained order and balance in the galaxy. They will not be changed for one human's emotional objections. Marcus closed his eyes and tried to think. He had wanted to help people, and somehow that had led to this impossible situation. If he refused, it could mean war. If he agreed, he would be forced into a marriage with someone who did not even believe in marrying for love. How long do I have to decide? He asked. The ceremony will take place in 7 days, the Emperor said. That will give us time to notify the other empires and prepare for the celebration. This will be the greatest wedding in galactic history. Marcus opened his eyes and looked at Princess Zara Lynn. She was beautiful and seemed kind, but she was also completely alien to him in ways that had nothing to do with her crystal-like skin. Princess, he said, what do you think about all this? She tilted her head, considering the question. I think you are the most puzzling being I have ever met, Captain Chen. But you are also the bravest. Perhaps this marriage is the will of the cosmos. Marcus sighed. 7 days to figure out how to escape an impossible situation. He had faced pirates and survived dangerous trade routes, but this was the strangest challenge of his life. I need time to think, he said. The Emperor nodded. You will be our honored guest until the ceremony. Princess Zara Lynn will help you understand our ways. As Marcus was led to guest quarters that were probably more luxurious than his entire ship, he wondered what he had gotten himself into. He had saved a princess, and now he might have doomed himself to a life he never wanted. But as he looked back at Princess Zara Lynn, who was watching him with those strange, color-changing eyes, he realized that maybe, just maybe, this situation was more complicated than anyone realized. The news of the upcoming royal wedding spread across the galaxy faster than Marcus had thought possible. Within 2 days, every major news network was talking about the human cargo hauler who was going to marry Velthari royalty. Marcus watched the reports from his guest quarters and felt his stomach sink with each broadcast. Human contamination of noble bloodlines threatens galactic stability, announced a Sindari news anchor, her silver skin gleaming under the studio lights. The Sindari Empire had always considered themselves the most civilized species in the galaxy, and they were clearly horrified by the idea of humans mixing with royal families. This sets a dangerous precedent, declared a Krex military commander on another channel. If humans can marry into the most ancient bloodlines through simple acts of violence, what is to stop them from taking over the galaxy? Marcus turned off the viewer and rubbed his temples. Simple acts of violence? He muttered. I saved people's lives. A soft chime announced a visitor. Princess Zara Lynn entered his quarters, moving with that fluid grace that all Velthari seemed to possess. She looked troubled, which was the first time Marcus had seen her express any emotion other than calm dignity. The galactic response is worse than my father expected, she said without preamble. How bad? Marcus asked, though he was not sure he wanted to know. The Sindari Empire has recalled their ambassador and closed their borders to all human ships. The Krex hegemony has moved 3 battle fleets to defensive positions near our territory, and the Trade Guild has suspended all contracts involving human merchants. Marcus stood up and walked to the window that looked out over the Crystal City. Because I helped you. Because you are human, Zara Lynn corrected gently. My father has been studying your species since you arrived. Humans have been in space for less than 200 years, but you have already established colonies in over 50 systems. Other species took thousands of years to spread that far. We explore quickly, Marcus said. So what? You also adapt quickly, and you do not follow the rules that other species consider sacred. Zara Lynn joined him at the window. The established powers are afraid that humans will change everything. Marcus looked at her reflection in the crystal glass. Is that why your father really wants this marriage? Not because of some ancient law, but because he thinks humans might be useful allies? Zara Lynn was quiet for a long moment. My father is a wise ruler. He sees that the galaxy is changing whether the old powers want it to or not. Better to guide that change than to be destroyed by it. Before Marcus could respond, another chime announced a visitor. This time it was a Velthari guard who bowed deeply to the princess. Your Highness, the Emperor requests your immediate presence in the war room. Captain Chen is also requested to attend. Marcus and Zara Lynn exchanged glances. War room? Marcus asked. The war room turned out to be a vast chamber filled with holographic displays showing star maps and fleet positions. Emperor Thelvar stood in the center, studying a particularly dense cluster of red dots near the Velthari border. The situation has escalated, the Emperor said without looking up. Shadowclaw pirates have increased their attacks by 300% in the last 48 hours. They are hitting supply convoys, mining stations, and even passenger liners. Marcus studied the display. The attacks seemed random at first, but as he looked closer, he began to see a pattern. They're not just raiding for profit, he said. They're trying to destabilize your trade routes. The Emperor finally looked at him, surprise clear on his crystalline features. You see it too. Yes, someone is coordinating these attacks. Someone who wants to show that the Velthari Empire cannot protect its people. The timing is not a coincidence, Zara Lynn added. The attacks began exactly when news of our wedding became public. Marcus felt a cold knot form in his stomach. This is because of me, isn't it? Someone is using the wedding as an excuse to attack your people. Not just someone, the Emperor said grimly. We have intelligence that suggests the Sindari Empire is funding these attacks. They want to demonstrate that allying with humans brings only chaos and violence. A new voice spoke from behind them, and they may be right. Marcus turned to see a Velthari noble he had not met before. The being was old even by Velthari standards, with crystalline skin that had turned almost silver with age. Lord Kelthar, the Emperor said with clear displeasure, I did not summon you. Yet here I am, the old noble replied, moving forward with slow dignity. Your Majesty, this foolish wedding is tearing the galaxy apart. Cancel it before we are all destroyed. The law is clear, the Emperor said firmly. The debt must be repaid. Then let the human choose another form of payment, Lord Kelthar shot back. Grant him titles, lands, wealth. Anything but marriage to the imperial bloodline. Marcus found himself speaking before he could stop himself. What if I don't want titles or lands or wealth? Lord Kelthar stared at him as if he had spoken nonsense. Everyone wants those things. Humans don't, Marcus said, realizing something important as he spoke. We want to choose our own path. We want to earn what we get. And we want to help people who need help. The old noble's silver skin flushed with anger. Primitive thinking. This is exactly why humans should never be allowed to mix with civilized bloodlines. Marcus felt his own anger rising. Civilized? You people are ready to start a war rather than admit that your ancient laws might be wrong. How is that civilized? Captain Chen, the Emperor said sharply. Lord Kelthar is one of our most respected advisors. With respect. Your Majesty, Marcus replied. Your most respected advisor just called my entire species primitive. Where I come from, that's fighting words. Lord Kelthar stepped closer to Marcus, his ancient eyes gleaming with contempt. Prove me wrong, human. Show us that your species possesses something other than crude violence and emotional instability. Marcus was about to reply when Princess Zara Lin moved between them. Enough, she said, her voice carrying surprising authority. Lord Kelthar, you forget yourself. Captain Chen is our honored guest. He is a disruption to the natural order, the old noble replied. Already his presence has brought chaos to our borders and division to our council. His presence has also revealed truths that we might otherwise have ignored, Zara Lin said quietly. Perhaps the natural order needs disruption. The silence that followed was so complete that Marcus could hear his own heartbeat. A Velthari princess had just suggested that their ancient ways might be wrong, and she had done it to defend a human. Emperor Thelvar looked from his daughter to Marcus to Lord Kelthar. This discussion ends now, he said finally. The wedding will proceed as planned. Captain Chen, you will have the chance to prove your worth to those who doubt you. How? Marcus asked. The Emperor's expression grew grim. The Galactic Council has demanded that if this marriage is to take place, you must first pass the trial of ascension. It is an ancient test designed to prove that a being is worthy of joining a royal bloodline. Marcus did not like the sound of that. What kind of test? The kind that usually kills the one taking it, Lord Kelthar said with obvious satisfaction. In 5,000 years, only 12 beings have ever passed all parts of the trial. All of them were born to noble families of the greatest species. Marcus looked at Princess Zara Lin, who would not meet his eyes. And if I refuse to take this trial? Then the wedding cannot take place, the Emperor said. And the debt will remain unpaid with all the consequences that brings. Marcus understood. He could take a trial that would probably kill him, or he could refuse and potentially start a war. Some choice. When does this trial begin? He asked. In 3 days, the Emperor replied. The Galactic Council is sending representatives to observe. They want to see a human fail in front of the entire galaxy. Marcus nodded slowly. Then I guess I had better not fail. As the meeting broke up, Princess Zara Lin caught his arm. Marcus, she said quietly, using his first name for the first time. The trial of ascension is not just difficult. It is designed to be impossible for anyone who is not born to rule empires. Marcus looked down into her color-changing eyes and saw something there that surprised him. Fear. Not for herself, but for him, Princess, he said gently. You obviously don't know much about humans. We specialize in doing impossible things. For the first time since he had met her, Princess Zara Lin smiled. It transformed her entire face, making her look younger and more alive. Perhaps that is exactly what this galaxy needs, she said. The trial of ascension took place in an ancient arena that had been carved from a single massive crystal. Representatives from every major species in the galaxy filled the viewing platforms, all eager to watch a human fail. Marcus stood in the center of the arena floor, wearing simple combat gear and trying not to think about how many beings wanted to see him die. The first trial is combat, announced the Arbiter, an ancient being whose species Marcus did not recognize. The challenger will face 3 opponents chosen by the Galactic Council. Victory requires defeating all 3 without killing any of them. Marcus almost laughed at that last part. They wanted to make it even harder by requiring him to show restraint, while fighting for his life. His first opponent entered the arena to loud cheers from the Krex section of the stands. It was a massive Krex warrior, easily 8 feet tall and covered in natural armor that looked like black metal. The Kreks were known throughout the galaxy as the finest warriors, and this one carried weapons that hummed with energy. "I will try to make your death quick." "Human," the Krek said, his voice like grinding stone. "Thanks. That's very thoughtful," Marcus replied, checking his own much simpler weapons. The battle began with the Kreks charging forward like a living tank. Marcus waited until the last second, then dove to the side, letting the warrior's momentum carry him past. As the Kreks turned, Marcus was already moving, striking at the joints in the natural armor where it was weakest. The Kreks was stronger and better armed, but Marcus was faster and more flexible. He fought like humans had always fought, using speed and cunning to overcome superior force. When the Kreks tried to corner him against the arena wall, Marcus used the wall itself, running up it and flipping over his opponent to strike from behind. The crowd grew quieter as the fight continued. They had expected the human to be crushed quickly, but Marcus kept moving, kept adapting, kept finding new ways to attack and defend. When the Kreks finally fell, stunned but unharmed, the arena was almost silent. His second opponent was a Velthari noble, fighting with weapons made of crystallized light that could cut through almost anything. This fighter was faster than the Kreks but more predictable, following classical combat forms that had been perfected over thousands of years. Marcus had learned something important. About fighting aliens, they often could not adapt when someone did not follow their rules. The Velthari warrior expected formal dueling techniques, so Marcus fought like a street brawler, using moves no noble would ever consider proper. He won by grabbing a handful of arena sand and throwing it at his opponent's eyes, then tackling the blinded fighter and pinning him down. The Velthari section of the crowd made sounds of disgust at such crude tactics. The third opponent surprised everyone. It was a human. "Commander Sarah Zhang, Earth Defense Force," the woman said as she entered the arena. She was tall and confident with the bearing of a professional soldier. "A human?" Marcus asked the arbiter. "The council decided that if you could defeat your own species' finest warrior, it would prove human superiority is not universal," the ancient being replied. Marcus studied Commander Zhang as she approached. She was clearly military trained and carried weapons that made his equipment look like toys. More importantly, she knew how humans fought. "Nothing personal," she said as they faced each other, "but I have orders to demonstrate that not all humans are as special as the galaxy seems to think." The fight with Commander Zhang was the hardest yet. She knew all the tricks Marcus had used against the alien opponents, and she had training he lacked. But Marcus had something she did not: experience fighting for his life in situations where the odds were impossible. He won by doing something completely unexpected. In the middle of their combat, he stopped fighting and started talking. "Commander, who gave you orders to be here?" he asked while dodging her attacks. "The Earth government," she replied, not stopping her assault. "And who told Earth that this trial was necessary?" Zhang hesitated for just a moment. "The Galactic Council said humans needed to prove we belonged." Marcus used that moment of hesitation to close distance. "And you believed them?" "Commander, look around. Every alien in this arena wants to see humans fail. They're using you to hurt your own species." Zhang's attack slowed as she processed what he was saying. "You're trying to trick me." "No tricks," Marcus said, backing away with his hands raised. "Just truth. They brought you here to prove that humans fight each other instead of standing together. Don't give them what they want." Commander Zhang stopped fighting entirely. She looked up at the crowd, seeing for the first time the eager faces of aliens who wanted to watch humans destroy each other. "I forfeit," she announced loudly. The crowd erupted in confusion and anger. The arbiter tried to declare the trial invalid, but Commander Zhang had already left the arena. Marcus had won the first trial not through superior fighting, but by turning an enemy into an ally. The second trial was mental, solving a puzzle that had stumped scholars for millennia. Marcus was led to a chamber filled with complex mathematical equations and star charts that seemed to make no sense. "You have 1 hour to find the solution," the arbiter announced. Marcus stared at the incomprehensible symbols and equations. Every other species had spent centuries trying to solve this puzzle using advanced mathematics and sophisticated theories. Marcus realized that was exactly the problem. Instead of trying to understand the complex equations, he stepped back and looked at the entire puzzle as a whole. The answer was not in the details, it was in the pattern. The star charts were not meant to be read as maps, but as a rhythm. The mathematical equations were not calculations, but music. He began rearranging the symbols to match the rhythm he heard in his head. Within 30 minutes, the chamber filled with harmonious sound, and the puzzle dissolved into light. The watching scholars were amazed. They had been trying to solve the puzzle with their minds when it required intuition and creativity. The third trial was survival. Marcus was placed in an environmental chamber that cycled through the most dangerous conditions in the galaxy: crushing gravity, toxic atmosphere, extreme temperatures, and radiation that would kill most species in minutes. The trial was designed to last 6 hours. Most beings who attempted it died within the first hour. Marcus lasted the full 6 hours by doing what humans did best: adapting. When the gravity increased, he found ways to move that used less energy. When the atmosphere became poisonous, he slowed his breathing and found pockets of cleaner air. When the temperature dropped to lethal levels, he exercised to generate heat. When radiation filled the chamber, he used pieces of the chamber itself as shielding. He survived not because he was stronger than other species, but because he refused to give up and kept finding new solutions to each problem. When the trials ended, Marcus was exhausted but alive. The arena had fallen completely silent. He had passed tests that were supposed to be impossible, but as he stood in the center of the arena catching his breath, alarms began to sound throughout the Crystal City. Emergency lights flashed, and voices over the communication systems announced the approach of a massive enemy fleet. "Shadowclaw invasion force detected," came the announcement. "All citizens to emergency shelters immediately." Marcus looked up at the viewing platforms where Princess Zaralyn sat with her father. Their eyes met across the distance, and he saw fear in her expression, not for herself, but for her people. The timing was not a coincidence. Someone had planned this attack to happen during the trials, when all the galaxy's leaders were gathered in one place. Marcus began running toward the arena exits. He had passed the trials, but the real test was just beginning. And this time, it was not just his life at stake. It was the future of the galaxy. As chaos erupted around him, Marcus realized that everything up to this point had been preparation. The rescue, the marriage proposal, the trials, they had all led to this moment when he would have to prove that humans could do more than just survive impossible odds. They could help others survive them too. The invasion had begun, and Marcus Chen was about to show the galaxy what humans were really capable of when the people they cared about were in danger. The Shadowclaw invasion fleet was massive, over 200 ships of various sizes, all armed and hungry for destruction. They had chosen their timing perfectly, striking when the galaxy's leaders were gathered in one place and when the Felthari defenses were focused on the trials rather than external threats. Marcus reached the palace command center as Emperor Thelvar was receiving reports from his fleet commanders. The news was not good. "Our defensive fleet is outnumbered 3-1, Admiral Kessera reported, her crystalline features tight with worry. "They have us surrounded and are demanding our surrender." "What are their terms?" the Emperor asked. "Complete surrender of the planet, execution of all royal family members, and the delivery of all galactic leaders to their ships for processing," the Admiral replied grimly. Marcus studied the tactical display showing the positions of both fleets. The Shadowclaw ships had formed a perfect blockade around the planet, with their largest vessels positioned to bombard the surface if their demands were not met. "Your Majesty," Marcus said, stepping forward, "I need to know exactly what weapons and resources you have available." The Emperor looked at him with surprise. "Captain Chen, you have proven yourself admirably in the trials, but this is a matter for military professionals." "With respect, Your Majesty." "Your military professionals are about to lose," Marcus replied bluntly. "I'm not a professional soldier, but I've spent my life dealing with pirates and impossible situations. Sometimes that's exactly what you need." Princess Zaralyn entered the command center at that moment, having changed from her formal robes into practical clothing. "Father, the Shadowclaw fleet has begun broadcasting demands to the assembled galactic representatives. They want them to witness the fall of the Velthari Empire as proof that the old order is ending." Marcus looked at the display again, thinking furiously. "They're not just here to conquer," he said suddenly. "They're here to make a statement. They want to humiliate the most powerful species in the galaxy in front of everyone." Does that help us? Admiral Kesra asked. It means they'll be more focused on the show than on practical defense, Marcus replied. Admiral, can your bioships communicate with the palace's crystal structure? The Admiral looked confused. Yes, our ships are grown from the same living crystal as the palace. They share a form of consciousness. But I do not understand. The palace isn't just a building, Marcus interrupted, his mind racing. It's a weapon. You built your entire city from living crystal that can store and channel energy. If we can connect the palace to your fleet's power systems, Emperor Thelvar's eyes widened as he understood. You want to turn our entire city into a defensive weapon. Not just defensive, Marcus said, grinning for the first time since the invasion began. The Shadowclaw ships are positioned in a perfect formation for what they think is an impregnable blockade. But they're also positioned perfectly for a coordinated attack from below. Admiral Kesra shook her head. Captain Chen, even if we could channel our fleet's power through the city, we do not have enough firepower to break their formation. We don't need to break their formation, Marcus replied. We need to turn it against them. Princess, how many other species have representatives here for the trials? 15 major species along with dozens of smaller delegations, Zara Lynn answered. Marcus turned to the Emperor. Your Majesty, I need you to contact every delegation and ask them one question. Do they want to go home as free beings or as Shadowclaw prisoners? The Emperor understood immediately. You want to turn the observer fleets into allies. The Shadowclaw plan depends on everyone being too scared or too proud to work together, Marcus said. But humans specialize in getting people to cooperate when their backs are against the wall. Over the next hour, Marcus worked with Admiral Kesra and the palace engineers to establish connections between the bioships and the city's crystal network. Meanwhile, Emperor Thelvar and Princess Zaralyn contacted every delegation, explaining the situation and Marcus's plan. The response was better than anyone had hoped. The Krex delegation contributed their 3 heavy cruisers. The Sindari Empire, despite their earlier protests about the marriage, offered their sophisticated electronic warfare capabilities. Even smaller species provided what they could: fast scout ships, defensive shields, or simply extra crew members. This is unprecedented, Admiral Kesra observed as dozens of different ships began taking positions around the planet. So many species have never coordinated an attack before. That's because they've never had to, Marcus replied, studying the combined fleet positions. They've always had the luxury of fighting their own separate wars. Today they learn what humans figured out a long time ago. We're stronger when we work together. The battle began with the Shadowclaw fleet demanding immediate surrender. When they received no response, they began moving into attack formation. Confident that their superior numbers would guarantee victory, they were not prepared for what happened next. The palace and the entire crystal city began to glow, channeling power from the bioships hidden on the planet's surface. The coordinated alien fleet attacked from multiple directions simultaneously, each species using their unique advantages in perfect coordination. The Krex ships provided heavy firepower, smashing through Shadowclaw armor. The Sindari vessels jammed enemy communications and sensors, creating chaos in their ranks. The fast scout ships from smaller species darted between larger vessels, striking at vulnerable points and disappearing before return fire could reach them. But the real surprise came when the Crystal City itself joined the battle. Massive beams of energy erupted from the palace spires, striking Shadowclaw ships with power no one had imagined possible. The entire planet had become a weapon, and Marcus stood in the command center directing the attack like a conductor leading an orchestra. Target their command ship, he called out. All heavy units focus fire on the flagship. The smaller ships are trying to retreat, Admiral Kesra reported. Let them go, Marcus replied. Chase an enemy and they'll fight harder. Give them a way out and they'll take it. Princess Zaralyn watched from beside him, amazed by how naturally he commanded the diverse fleet. How do you know what each species can do? She asked. I pay attention, Marcus said, coordinating another strike. Humans learn to use whatever tools we have available. Today our tools happen to be the most powerful fleets in the galaxy. The battle turned into a rout. The Shadowclaw fleet, designed to overwhelm a single enemy, could not adapt to fighting multiple species using completely different tactics. Their formation collapsed, Their command structure failed and their ships began fleeing in all directions. Within 2 hours, the invasion was over. The Shadowclaw fleet had been destroyed or scattered, and the planet was safe. In the aftermath, as the various species began to realize what they had accomplished together, Marcus found himself standing with Princess Zaralyn on a balcony overlooking the Crystal City. "The galaxy will never be the same," she said quietly. "Good," Marcus replied. "It needed to change." Zaralyn turned to look at him. "The trials are over. You have proven yourself worthy according to every law and tradition. The marriage can proceed." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "Princess, can I ask you something?" "Of course. Do you want to marry me?" "Not because of laws or debts or political necessity, but because you choose to." Zaralyn smiled, and Marcus realized he had come to love that smile. "Marcus Chen, you have shown me something I never knew existed. The power of choice and the strength that comes from people working together because they want to, not because they have to." "Is that a yes?" "That is a yes," she said, moving closer to him. "But I have a condition." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "What condition?" "We do this the human way. We choose each other freely. We work together as equals, and we spend our lives showing the galaxy that cooperation is stronger than conquest." Marcus grinned and took her hand. "Princess, you've got yourself a deal." 6 months later, Captain Marcus Chen and Princess Zaralyn were married in a ceremony that was broadcast across the galaxy. Representatives from every species attended, not as reluctant observers, but as willing participants in something new. The wedding itself was a blend of human and Velthari traditions, but more importantly, it was a symbol of what the galaxy could become when different peoples chose to work together, instead of against each other. Marcus kept his ship, the Resilience, but now it was equipped with both human engineering and Velthari biotechnology. He and Zaralyn traveled together between the stars, not as conquerors or rulers, but as ambassadors of cooperation. The Shadowclaw pirates still existed, and there were still conflicts between species, but something fundamental had changed. The galaxy had seen what was possible when people chose to help each other instead of fighting each other, and it had all started because one human cargo hauler could not ignore a distress call. As Marcus often told people who asked about his story, sometimes the right thing to do is also the hardest thing to do. But that's exactly when you need to do it most. The galaxy was learning that lesson, one planet at a time.